Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our watch along. It is the semi-final, and the second one, that is Australia up against South Africa, with a very rich history between the two teams. And of course, Australia, who have been in a similar situation 5 times before, will be looking to just make it 6 times. And of course, for South Africa, they will just be looking to make it out of the semi-finals for the very first time in their cricket history. My name is Naledi Apan, and of course, I am with Tasman Granger as well as Tandeka Dube. Before we get into today's match, we have to go back and talk about what happened yesterday, because history has been made. India, the host nation of the Cricket Men's World Cup 2023, just making a name for themselves. Of course, with what Mohammad Shami did yesterday, Virat Kohli as well. So everybody has just been so keen yesterday's match. And here with me, I've got Tasman and Tandeka as well as Paul joining us via Zoom to talk about that match yesterday. Tasman, I have to start with you, man. When we previewed that match yesterday, we just spoke about how India really, there's no loophole. There isn't a team that can say, okay, this is where we can strike and be successful at it. They did it again yesterday, just made history for themselves. Virat Kohli has been so brilliant. Mohammad Shami, who his name keeps on popping up because this is a guy that did not start the tournament with the whole team. He started, later on in the tournament, but he's just getting wickets after wickets with so many yesterday. What do you make of India's overall performance yesterday?
Yeah, we took 2 full days to deconstruct everything that they've been about and what they've been up to, and we did mention that there's not much that's going to happen if you don't tear through at least the first 6 top batters. And that's not going to happen when you have the likes of KL Rahul stepping up to the plate. You have the likes in Shiraz yesterday. Not everyone's talking about Shiraz's innings, but he scored the fastest 100 currently at this tournament as well. And that's before you even the fact that Mohammad Shami took 7 wickets.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want to pick to talk about yesterday. You know what I mean? There's Rohit surpassing, current records for the most sixes hit in a tournament. He's just surpassed Chris Gale's record as well at the top of the order.
Yeah.
In the morning show, we even had to cut short the thing I'm going to mention. I'll have India broke 17 records yesterday in just one match alone.
Oh.
So I think, they've been in brilliant form. All props to them. They definitely deserve to be in the position that they're in, having booked the final spot, but I take nothing away from New Zealand. Everybody was thinking of, it's 400 on the board, it's a big total. There's no way they're going to get to it. But no one's talking about the fact that there was a 186-run partnership shared between Daryl Mitchell as well as Kane Williamson. Paul spoke about it this morning on the show to say that at some point it was so silent in the stadium between the fans. If it wasn't just for the team chipping away, continuously chipping away, you wouldn't be sure to know that, that there were actually people in the crowd because it was one of those pin drop moments. The game was holding in suspense, especially when, they didn't know if the wicket was going to come.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that Mohammad Shami dropped Kane Williamson not too long before that as well.
Yeah.
And then he comes back later and, they're like, look, bro, we're not saying it's your fault, but you need a bowl now and you need to make something happen, So he comes back, he takes the ball. This is around the 30th over. New Zealand looking so settled, 181-run partnership on the cards for them at this point in time. And Shami does the Shami things.
Doing what he does best.
It goes back to being the problem for everybody, he's been brilliant for me. He went from someone not being mentioned in the ranks to currently being the highest wicket taker for India in this format right now. Yeah. He's just surpassed the 50 wicket mark as well in just 17 innings. That's something to take into consideration as well on the World Cup platform. If I will say this again, Hardik Pandya was in that squad, injured, he would have never got the opportunity as well.
Yeah.
So it's something to look at. If Hardik was in the squad, guys like Shiraz might have still have a question mark on their heads because Hardik is your all-rounder that replaces both these two guys. So, I tell you guys, I don't believe in chance. I don't believe in luck. I believe it was just faith. This was his tournament exactly to have a chance to go out there as well and just show what he's made of, New Zealand, for me, this is their stage. We know there were 2 things that could have happened.
Yeah.
Either New Zealand breaks their curse of losing to the host nation in
or
semi-finals, or India breaks their curse of being taken out by New Zealand at semi-final stages.
And they broke the curse.
All down to India. I take nothing away. They've been playing brilliant cricket so far throughout this World Cup. And I believe they deserved the win as well yesterday. Yeah. We spoke about the fact that the pitch is going to give you good swing movement, first 10 and seam. first good swing, good seam.
Yeah.
Round about to the 15th over as well, up to then giving you good seam movement off the deck. But I believe New Zealand negotiated that very, very well. Obviously, a bit unfortunate. You could see the class and the quality of Shami. Obviously, I think my favorite wicket of Shami's yesterday has to be the Rachin Ravendra's dismissal.
Yeah.
You can see him looking uncomfortable. You can see him actually try and dig back into his crease and look to play it because it's swinging in. He played the first line, it hits the deck, it seems away. Second line, what do you know? Brilliant diving catch by KL Rahul. So it's the quality for me in which he took his wickets. Shami yesterday, a lot of people are talking about the fact that, he's taking wickets off middle to tailenders, and he's taking wicket to middle of tailenders.
Yeah.
And he didn't do that yesterday. He got top order, but he got the whole team yesterday. Not
He
just
got
top
everybody
order,
out. Everybody
he
out.
got the whole team
whole squad
yesterday.
out. Yeah.
So it's super excellent. And I think we have Paul Dennett with us right now. And Paul, I just want to find out from you. What is that key highlight moment for you yesterday that was just spectacular? No, I love to see Shami move the ball around. I love to see his seam presentation. It's a great textbook illustration for kids in schools back home. And just for you, what was that big highlight for you yesterday?
G'day, guys. Well, there were plenty of highlights. I really enjoyed seeing David Beckham at the ground. I know that's not the right thing to say, but that was pretty cool.
No, that's allowed. I was a bit shocked personally, so that's allowed.
I wonder how much cricket he knows about. I don't think he's all that much of a cricket fan, but he would have certainly got a very enjoyable experience of the grand stage and the crowd at Wankiti really going hard. I think for me, the highlight was the two quick wickets, the Williamson dismissal and then the Latham LBW, because of what it did to the stadium. That before that, nerve endings were jangling. You could hear it in the commentators. Sanjay Manjrekar was really quite nervous, and I think the crowd was getting nervous. And then Williamson, I think he saw it. It was there to be hit. He just didn't quite middle. If he'd hit about maybe 1 millimeter closer to the center of the bat, it would have carried another 2 meters. It would have been a 6. And who knows? New Zealand was starting to make a run for it. But then Latham getting out straight away. Unfortunately, he's been in such bad form. And I think that was the moment that the belief kind of ebbed away a little bit from New Zealand, although they kept on at it. And as you said at the start there, it was a very impressive runs chase on a pitch that everyone, including me, was saying was very, very difficult to bat second on.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's brilliant, in a post-match interview of that match, during, just after handing over the Player of the Match award to Mohammad Shami, I don't think anyone would have seen it coming, especially with Virat having crossed over the 50, 100 record over Sachin Tendulkar's record. Then you have Mohammad Shami coming and stealing the thunder, taking 7 wickets. In a post-match interview, he mentioned to say that, he's all for the new theory of cricket of bolder variations, get out as many as you can. But his basic recipe is pitch up the ball and let it do everything else. Your take on this?
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked about it in the morning show, comparisons between him and Glenn McGrath, and they're saying, well, McGrath's 7 wickets were against Namibia, whereas Shami's were against New Zealand. But there is a similarity in that McGrath didn't do very much with the ball either. And the sort of the cliche is you only need to make it move, 3 or 4 centimeters to go from the middle of the bat to the edge of the bat. And one thing I forgot to say actually in the morning show, that in talking about McGrath, he was the player of the tournament in 2007 when Australia won the World Cup in the West Indies, when he was kind of at the end of his career. You'd have to say that if India do go on to win the World Cup, there are plenty of people who could be in line to be player of the tournament. Shami would have to be one of them.
Oh, yes, I agree with that 110%. He's gone from a place where he wasn't actually considered in the squad to being currently crossing the 50-wicket mark at World Cups in just 17 innings. That is the quickest by any bowler through this tournament format as well.
It's extraordinary. And, for a while there, before Bumrah came along, I used to tell everyone that Shami was the best Indian bowler I'd ever seen. And if I was picking my all-time, I love picking all-time test sides, and I bore people senseless with that all the time. And Shami, I said, he's the first one I'd pick. Now that Bumrah's come along, probably I would say that Bumrah is the number 1, but Shami's still there, number 2. And it's quite something to have, in my opinion, the 2 best fast bowlers that India has ever produced playing in the same team together and causing absolute carnage. One thing I did want to ask, guys, What's the viewpoint over there in terms of that controversy about the pitch preparation? Because it's made significant headlines around the rest of the world. I know Sunil Gavaskar has been quite sort of robust in defending what happened. What do you guys think of it all?
Yeah, for me, it was super surprising. I did bump into a tweet about it last night, and I didn't dig too much into it because no one's really talking about it this side as well. I'm not sure you guys are even aware about what Paul is talking about.
No.
So
Haven't heard
apparently,
anything,
just before the game, the pitch was moved.
Huh?
So the 7
Okay.
strips prepared. We know we're playing on the 6th strip, and all of a sudden we end up playing the match on the
Moved.
4th strip.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I don't know which side this was meant to help swing in whose favor, but yeah, I think it's just super crazy, Paul, to be honest with you. I don't know, as a player personally, if I'm the type of person that I get to a field in the morning, teams get there probably an hour and a half to 2 hours before the toss. And I'm that player that goes and sits next to the pitch and I just stare at it for like a good 20 to 30 minutes, pick my spot. I'm a bowler. I come out, I need to know where I want to land the ball as a leg spinner as well. And being in the case, I like to just sit and visualize what my whole innings is going to go on like through the day. And I take 30 minutes of my time and I sit and I stare at this patch of dust, and then the next thing I head up to the changing room, probably dress up, get ready for warm up, and all of a sudden the pitch is moved.
It's not what you were staring at for the last 20 to 30 minutes.
Guys, I don't have 30 minutes to stare at the pitch again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's super interesting. The players may have looked at it the night before as well, had the assumption of this is the possible track that we're batting on, and then they come in the next morning and that's not what it is anymore. So yeah, super interesting. I think it's gonna unfold depending on how the tournament ends. It's definitely gonna be a story that unfolds and is told.
I have a question. You guys were just talking about Mohamed Shami and how he's been so brilliant. Initially, he was not selected, to be part of the squad. Well, he was in the World Cup, but not, part of the regular starting lineup. Just looking at how, Hardik's injury was just a blessing in disguise for him to come and just shine on a greater stage like this. And also you're looking at a Shubman Gill who also just came out yesterday with what looks to be, I'm not sure how hectic that injury is, but do you think it has come to a point whereby in order to make changes, there has to come an injury to be able to make a forced injury change? Because I'm looking at Shubman Gill also, who had, I think, brilliant innings in yesterday's match. Now, if he's not fit enough to play in the next match, that means there has to be a forced injury again in the Indian squad.
Yeah, I think in Shubman's case yesterday, he seemed okay because at the end of the innings, after they did lose, again, 1 wicket in Shiraz Air, he was the man that walked into the track. So maybe just a bit of cramping up, as India hasn't switched up much of their squad as well. So maybe just fatigue kicking in, but they'd be glad to have the next 2 days rest ahead of the final coming up. But Paul, your take on this as well, where, if the squad is that great that people are firing so much that it's going to take an injury for someone to get an opportunity.
Absolutely. It's funny because I've just been reminiscing with a few people about the Australian summer of 1994-95 when Australia arrogantly included an Australia A side in the international season. India could have done that in this World Cup, and it would be very interesting to see how they would have gone. You would say that there would have been a chance that if there was an India A side, talk about their squad depth, that it may well be that India A is playing in the semi-final tonight to see if they could play against the big boys in the final come Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure, Tandy, what's going on in your mind as well. You're just out here sitting in the corner and listening to us ramble.
Because I'm literally enjoying what you guys are talking about. But one thing just got me thinking that you're talking about the records being broken yesterday just from that inning, right? We all know of the likes of Virat Kohli having the most records broken. Which other ones did we miss out right there?
There's currently Rohit Sharma is the leading 6th hitter at this tournament. He's overtaken Chris Gale's record as well. You have the likes of, obviously, Mohamed Shami moving to the fastest wicket taker, hitting 50 plus wickets at a World Cup stage in just 17 innings. The list does go on and on and on. I can tell you there is a 3rd wicket partnership in there as well that was created for them. And it's spectacular. We have to dedicate, I think, a show
for that.
I think it's this whole cup and this whole World Cup in a whole. There's the Glenn Maxwell innings. There's so many records. I think we might almost be somewhere close to 50 records being broken this World Cup alone. Today, you have the likes of South Africa facing up against Australia. We do know that South Africa currently holds the highest runs scored in an innings, 428 runs for the loss of 5 wickets against Sri Lanka. And that alone is a record in its own. We do know that they've currently won the toss, Paul, and they've opted to bat. I want to find out, your take on this as well, because we know that the rain factor is definitely going to be something to look out for them. And usually when it rains, teams look to bat second as opposed to batting first. But both these teams not too comfortable chasing the score. I think even if Pat would have won the toss at this stage, he would have opted to definitely have a bat as well first. And your take on this?
I'm not 100% sure if I heard the question, but I'd say I'm very disappointed that Australia's not batting first. When the coin came down, I was hoping that Atherton was going to shove the microphone in front of Pat Cummins' face, but went across to Temba. And look, I suppose I will take the same consolation that Pat Cummins has, that with the overhead conditions being around, maybe there's going to be a little bit of swing. But as I said in the morning show, that has been one of the big weaknesses of Australia in this tournament so far. They haven't been taking wickets with the new ball. And I think that South Africa, the template that they've shown so often in these recent matches against Australia is an explosive start with de Kock initially, a period of consolidation, and crucially, because Australia has only picked up 1 or 2 wickets, then come the 30th over or beyond, Klassen and co can really just go to town. And that's really making me nervous that South Africa could pile up a big score here.
So, Paul, do you think that your feelings of this just might not be Australia's good kudos that's been going on for them? We know that this is probably not going to be a repetition of the 1999-2007 semi-finals. Do you still have that feeling from a couple of days ago?
Yeah, I just think that eventually these things have a way of equaling out. I've never subscribed to the notion that South Africa choked in any of those games. It was one of these things. Australia, the ball before the run out of Alan Donald, Darren Lehmann missed the stumps by about only 3 meters away. And had South Africa gone on to win the game, everyone would have said, well, Australia choked because they had that opportunity to win and it didn't happen. So I just think, South Africa have been playing a little bit better than Australia. I give Australia a really strong chance, but I said 50-50 before in the morning show. I think the winning of the toss maybe edges that up to 55-45 in favour of South Africa. As I said, my big hope is that we're about to see the first ball. I'm hoping that Mitchell Starc has a big hooping swing ball.
Let's talk about, the current match right now that's currently underway. You spoke about being disappointed in South Africa choosing to bat first, especially under such circumstances where there has been predicted to rain, about 70% chance of rainfall, I think. And also just looking at, the conditions, it seems like for me that whoever that won the toss should have opted to bowl first, because it seems like the conditions also favor the people who will be bowling first, in this case Australia.
Well, it's the first ball from Starc. There's a little bit of swing. It's one of these ones that as soon as we see the conditions in 5 minutes, I think we'll.
Paul, are you still there? Yeah, I think we've lost Paul. But yeah, just your thoughts on that. I think the conditions really in this case favor the team that bowls first. But because we know South Africa have been labeled a team that cannot chase, and they really just couldn't risk that. Do you think that's what came to play when they were just when they won the toss actually?
I think it's more or less not the case of the fact that they have been labeled as people that cannot chase, but more at the stage in a semi-final, you want to do what you're good at. It's not the point in time to start experimenting and taking your chances, but it's about doing what you're actually good at. And they are good setters.
Yeah.
We do know that Quinton de Kock can get off to a flyer. And given that maybe, today is Bavuma's day, maybe he'll finally get out of the 30s. Maybe he'll finally get out of the 30s and into the 50s and possibly the 80s at the top of the order. So just maybe we see how that works out for them as well.
I mean, wouldn't that be great? You're talking about Themba Bavuma, who really hasn't done so well, in this tournament. We have to also talk about Quinton de Kock. his last World Cup. He's looking to make history for himself. He's been leading, the top runners of this tournament so far until Virat Kohli did what Virat Kohli did yesterday. Just topping the table with that. In today's match, I feel like there is a lot of at stake. The history also of the two teams, and of course how South Africa just failed to make it past Australia twice in 2003 and 7. Coming into this match, what do you think they will have to do differently to just make sure that they make it finally out of the semifinals?
Yeah, I think, they just need to go through their processes. I spoke about it again in terms of how New Zealand had to address the big total at hand for them yesterday as well. And I think they just want to be looking to go through their processes. Don't do anything you haven't been doing so far in this World Cup. 428 against Sri Lanka. That speaks volumes in its own of the potential of the team and what they're capable of. Such a deep batting order, right down the order. They've still got, after Quinton de Kock, they got Klaassen, they got Markham, they got all these guys still sitting out in the sidelines. They got Rassie van der Dussen as well. And if anything, they've shown us to say that all these guys have the ability and the quality to produce not just 50s, but 100s as well in their squad.
Yeah.
So stick to your guns, do what you're good at, and don't come out here trying to impress anybody or thinking over the pressures of what you could possibly be feeling. But more or less just go ahead and see what you can do. Control the controllables and let the rest go.
Definitely. I don't know if Tandy would like to add anything on that just before I proceed to our next question.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to find out your views. What do you think on SA bringing back Themba Bavuma? We've seen how he has been performing throughout the group stages. Now he's here again for the finals. Would you say they should have changed him for the other opener or just kept him there and given him another chance?
I think Bavuma plays a super big role in this team. It's not just the fact of scoring runs. And Bavuma is gone. Speaking of the man himself, currently at this situation, South Africa find themselves one for the loss of one at this current point in the first over. Back on Themba Bavuma, regardless of what's just happened, I will still sing his praises. I think, it's not just about him being an opener and getting to those 30s and combining early partnerships with Quinton, but the fact that he's the captain of the team means he brings a certain dynamic to the team.
Yeah.
He brings an era of calmness. We spoke about, fire versus ice yesterday in the Rohit Sharma versus, obviously, Kane Williamson instance. Some captains are those guys that come out there and they constantly have their squads charged. And some captains are the Themba Bavumas of this world that just give their squads the security and the calm mind to say, look, guys, you know what you're doing, just go out there and do it. We've seen Rohit Sharma yesterday going crazy in the changing room when Shubman Gill was hobbling around, and just he was like, I'm assuming. Like, I wasn't there, but I'm assuming he was going crazy, saying if Shubman is injured, he should get out of there, get someone in with fresh legs to get in there and keep the scoreboard ticking.
Yeah, Paul is back. But I like what you're saying. There's different types of captains. There's a captain that will, just be the motivator. A team just finding security is that you are a player yourself, so you know just how important the two are. And then you look at another captain like Rohit Sharma, who's so key, in that Indian squad. But for Themba Bavuma, I mean, this has to be, the worst start so far for him, just getting a single run on the scoreboard, just being oh my goodness.
I'm being optimistic today regardless of what I see on the screen.
Okay, so what we see doesn't matter. Paul, coming back to you, what do you make of just Themba Bavuma and this whole entire tournament? He is yet to get to 50 runs at least as a captain of South Africa. Definitely not.
Well, I mean, it hasn't mattered so far because he's had so many players around him doing so well, and obviously disappointing for him to fail today. But I think that as a captain, one of the big things is assessing conditions, and can he work out very quickly what this sort of pitch is? Is it a 350 pitch? From the early stages, it looks like that's not the case. It might be a pitch where 250 is key, and then when he bowls, the key is to have the bravery to keep the field up. And I think that that's something that so many captains don't do. The modern trend is to protect the boundaries rather than...
I think he's experiencing network issues. But yeah, hopefully we'll bring him back. Just speaking about Themba Bavuma, I don't think this is a World Cup that he would like to remember, especially if they don't come out of the semifinals. I mean, you are in a very big game, a do or die, where you just have to make sure that that label of being called chokers, you just do away with it. And it seems like, I don't know, but we'll see how the game goes. But for him, I believe that this was supposed to be a match where he really just showed up and just played for the badge, at least.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough call, I believe. They come into they come into this match with a lot of history on their shoulders.
Yeah.
I'll keep reiterating and keep repeating that this is not the same team that played in the 1999 World Cup.
Mm-mm.
Some of these guys might have still been running around in brown
nappies.
school socks,
Yeah.
watching the game on TV and campaigning to their parents to let them stay awake long enough to actually be able to watch the game.
Yeah.
So I don't want to label them with the same labels that have been given to guys that are probably the same age as their grandfathers. But I believe everybody deserves the opportunity to make their own mistakes as well, and not just be plagued by the mistakes made by those before them. And maybe they need to just possibly reevaluate the situation. Quentin de Kock and Rafi van der Dussen in there right now need to just check on it. Like we knew what was expected yesterday at Wankidi Stadium. We knew the sea movement and the swing movement lasts for 10 to 15 overs. So maybe just reevaluate. Obviously, maybe, if Quentin de Kock sticks to his guns, the Rohit Sharma type of behavior, and says, it doesn't matter to me. I know what I'm here to do, and I'm going to be Quentin de Kock. It's down to Rassie to play the innings as he's been played and actually keep it deep. Take it as deep as he can. Give the Aiden Markhams, David Miller, everybody else coming in after as well to be able to have the chance to just settle. They need to settle. They need to get the nerves down. And they need to realize this is a semi-final and what it actually means. I know they know what it means, but they know what it means in terms of what's at stake and what could be lost. But they need to start thinking of what they gain if they win the match.
I love what you're saying, just saying that they need to calm down, just, get yourself into the game. But as a player yourself, you play in a very big match like this. As calm as you can as a player. How do you make sure that your mind is just not focusing on the magnitude of the game, but on what you have to do on the field of play?
Yeah, this is where what we call the big match temperament comes into play a lot of the times. It's not something you can just wake up being able to control your mind. I've been saying throughout this tournament, as long as we've sat on the screen in big major situations, that this is not just a physical game, but it's very mental as well. It goes down to all the match preparation, everything you put into it as well in your mind, everything you tell yourself. You want to go out there, we call it positive intent, which means you're there, sticking around, seeing off the ball that's currently swinging, taking into consideration that we have 2 new balls coming from each end. You need to negotiate the swing and the seam off the deck. And for whatever reason, it means you're going at 4 runs and over right now, so be it. This is 50 over cricket. This is not a T20 match. You will have another 40 overs to make up the time. But what you don't want happening is finding yourself in a position where you're 6 wickets down and there's still a good 30 overs waiting to be batted. So give yourself a fair chance, and just to answer your question about how then do you switch on mentally, it's down to you as a player to just stop, take a break, and ask yourself, do you got this or you don't got this type of situation? And it's on you as well, Tell yourself the reason why you're in this. Personally, for me, I find myself in a situation where I'll ask myself, do you think there's anyone else better that the country would have entrusted to be in this place than me? No, because I'm actually here. So the responsibility is mine. So just take a break and start again. Currently, you can see, Mitchell Stark getting great shape, getting great swing away from Quentin de Kock. And, it's down to de Kock to say to himself, look, it's okay, this one beat the outside edge. But I'm going to just tell myself, anything coming at me, maybe say, fourth stump, outside off, I know it's definitely shaping away. I'm going to leave it alone. But anything coming on my pads, I'm definitely looking to play second line ahead of playing first line. And I think the key for them today will be definitely picking their battles.
They have to pick the right battle as well. Let me bring you in, Tandy, on this.
And also, I was just thinking that would you say is that one person, like, how in every team there's those few people who are able to anchor everyone else, like who have got just positive attitude, even though it's not necessary at times. Everyone is just mad, but they are just there to collect everyone and be like, guys, let's work together. Besides the captain, who would you say is that anchor person for SA and also for Australia?
You know, I think for Australia, a big person. You know, before this match, they were asking each other a bunch of questions and lifting up names of who do you think would be the
Glenn
guy to do
Maxwell.
this and
Glenn
who would-
Maxwell.
I think
Oh,
Maxi's a big place definitely for Australia. But
Yeah.
something I've noticed is they definitely feed off the energy of David Warner.
Okay.
And that's for sure. You know,
Mm.
he's between him and Glenn Maxwell, having two of them in one squad alone is spectacular.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they feed. They're your most agile fielders out there. They everywhere. I'm pretty sure they may just be the most vocal fielders as well in their squad.
Yeah.
And definitely for the same thing for South Africa, you know, they had one Quentin de Kock to get off a great start.
Mm.
In the league stages, you know, the game between Australia and South Africa, he did score 109 runs.
Mm.
And that's something he carries with himself as well into
Yeah.
this game. The confidence, knowing to say he
Yeah.
is capable and he is able to be able to do that job as well.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I was just thinking that I do a whole lot of thinking as usual.
We're used to it. Don't worry, girl.
We're very used to it, don't worry.
Oh yeah, I was saying that since the pitch mostly favors, like right now it's okay, right? But later on, what would you say for SA? What are they supposed to do right now? As much as they need to accelerate, and it seems like the ball is not really favoring right them. So what are they supposed to do so that when they use the deal methods, they won't be disadvantaged?
So you see that Duckworth and Lewis is super tricky at this stage. You know, they on the toss ideally would have batted second based on the rain delay. We seen what happened with New Zealand.
Yeah, and Pakistan. Oh, I think I'm still
400
Troms.
401
Oh.
runs on the board, and then you know Pakistan comes out courtesy of Pakistan,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Okay, guys, the rain is coming down, so I'm here just to have some quick throwdowns, a quick hit ranging session, and I'm going to take the game to New Zealand as well."
Yeah.
And it's tricky, you know. South Africa would want to get off to a flying start right now to ensure that if the LNS comes into play, that is after 20 overs in this format of the match,
Yeah.
that they have a decent target on the board.
Oh,
But
yes,
again,
yes.
don't forget, you take into consideration the amount of wickets they lose, which is what on the pass side, when they give Australia a pass score to come out and chase, they take into consideration the amount of wickets South Africa lost as well. Then as well affects the reduced total. It doesn't mean the total. If they score 200 and they're down for 5, it doesn't mean Australia is going to come out and chase 200.
Oh, yes.
It means by constitution of the amount of wickets lost, they still will deduct some runs from them, as well as the fact that for every hour you lose, for every 5 minutes you lose an over. That comes into play as well. So it will never be that the team that has been stopped at the rain at 200 for 5 will have the opposition coming in and chasing that 200 down. Be it even in the same allotted 50 overs, DLS will change the projected score. That is your pass score that is ever fluctuating based on time and based on the amount of wickets lost at hand as well.
So would you say if the rain just comes right now, their SA will be safe, or they has to play a certain number of overs before it's being considered end of the game?
You know, there's a lot to take into consideration today. I don't think they can pull a Pakistan and just pray to the rain gods right now to be on their side, because not only is it a case of if the rain comes down, this World Cup, we like looking for him in the rankings, you know, like we're trying to see where he is. But he comes out today. Maybe he was waiting for South Africa in the semi-final.
Seems like it.
Because he comes out today and he's absolutely swinging the ball around. Like, he hasn't missed his line yet. He's given nothing away in the current 2 or 3 overs that he's already bowled, in the 2 overs that he's already bowled, you know.
Yeah.
South Africa currently 5 for the loss of 1 after 3.3 overs right now. This may be just the slowest scoring total in this entire World Cup.
So would you say that's what New Zealand was lacking yesterday against India, just maintaining those lines where they finally found somewhere where it's the weakness of the certain batsmen, then maintaining that line?
You know, pitches are different. I think this has a lot, way more movement than the Australia-India game yesterday, personally.
Okay.
But you can't take away the form of the Indian batsmen. Because anything pitched up, Rohit was going for it. Anything just short back of a length, Shubman was pouncing. Anything short, Rohit was like, thank you, Merry Christmas to me. Gone across the line to it.
Run with it.
It's hard. They are completely in form type of team.
Yeah.
So you got, we spoke about chinks in the armor. We spoke about what you do. And I think in that situation, you control the controllables. I was just having a good tear through the score sheets yesterday and listening to just a post-match interview by Rohit Sharma. He said that if they were 30 to 40 runs short yesterday, we know they scored 397, so that gives them around 360. They believe they would have been in trouble with New Zealand. I take that 360 and I change the New Zealand bowling stats. They bowled 28 extras. Take off the 28 extras. That drops you down again to around about 330 odd runs. New Zealand's final total yesterday exceeded their 330 run mark. That's the difference between winning a game and losing a game sometimes.
Oh, that's a close one right there. So how would you determine that what kind of a pitch this is? Like, you know how everything you are saying it's just dust. Then how do you really tell that this one it's mostly favoring the bowlers, the batters, because they all look the same in a way. So what's that kind of difference, would you say it is?
You know, I think it goes down to trying to understand the manufacturing of the soils as well as the way the pitches were prepared, under what conditions. Has it been hot? Has it been baking? If the sun hasn't been entirely out, what's the water table like? You know, we as cricketers, let me tell you, we believe that we are serious ecologists when it comes to this. Like my team, like I don't know why they trust me or believe me, but maybe I'm being a bit credible on this part. But like I'm the guy that gets to the pitch, feel it with the different sides of my palm. I know if it's a bit colder this way. It's just stuff that comes from experience of being around people. You know, I've had a great time playing under Christopher Mpofu in the men's league. I've had a couple of games with a couple of other national players as well that have played before me, and they tell you based on their personal experiences what they think is going to happen more or less when they find certain situations. So you find that you get to the pitch and you never use the inside of your hand because your hand's always warm. Use the outside of your hand because that's standing outside temperature around you. If it feels cold to the touch, then you expect the water table to be close enough. So you know that it's going to be quick in the air, possibly slower off the deck than when it's flying off quicker in the air. Something to look out for. You look at the fact that if there's a layer of grass, there's a high chance the ball is going to skid, which means it's coming on faster to the bat. Not really going to get you with the surprise bounce or pop here and there, maybe one or two, but most of the time it's going to be flying towards the bat. But the difference now is if spinners come and bowl into that grass, they get grip and turn. So it's not something you can just wake up assuming, you know, and it's not something you can entirely just build up the knowledge of. It takes a lot of learning, a lot of listening, a lot of digging into research from guys before you as well. I love to sit and listen to pitch analysis reports, you know, the night before the game as well as the morning, because conditions change overnight. You need to take into consideration the fact that in the 90s, pitches were not covered the night before the match. These days, pitches are covered. What happens under the covers? It bakes more depending on the outside conditions overnight. If it rains, that means it's going to wake up with a bit of dew on top of it. Like there's all those small little things. Oh, I don't know if that was a catch that was just dropped or just some really great fielding. But the Australians, they got their foot on the throat of South Africa right now.
I mean, right there. Look at that. Look at the score: 6 for the loss of 1. Really not. That's so restricted.
And like, what would you say about the field setup of Australia? Like, are they really good fielders in the sense that they know that if someone is playing, for example, Quinton de Kock, they know his weaknesses. And so do you customize your field setup based on who's betting at that moment, or it's just general for everyone?
No, definitely. It's always down to the matchups to see what happens, because you must understand these two teams have already faced each other in the league stages. Not
Yeah.
sure if you can take note, but Quinton de Kock has 4 fielders on the offside. He's got a double pointer cover, an extra cover, and he's got mid off up for him as well against Stark, who is swinging the ball most probably away from him. But given that he bowls straight up, they'd be obviously expecting him to hit mid wicket somewhere in the line in front of him.
Yeah.
So it's definitely that, teams do the matchups. You do know the likes of Rohit Sharma are very comfortable pulling, don't bowl short. Simple as that.
But that's what they were doing yesterday.
Yeah, it's down to human error. For example, the Kane Williamson shot, you heard Paul Donnett talk about it this morning as well, to say that any given day, Kane Williamson is hitting that for 6 runs. Yesterday wasn't the given day, and lucky enough for India, they had a man on the ropes right there, straight down his throat, game-changing moment.
Yeah, I think it's time for us to go and enjoy the beautiful game, and of course we'll come back with some more updates as this game unfolds. Currently, it's still not looking good for South Africa, but hopefully they will get up the momentum when we come back a bit later on.